So today we're talking differentials, specifically changing the fluid. Now, why would you want to change the fluid in your differential? Your big main reasons are either contamination, such as from water or dirt or dirty water. You can get it contaminated through the breather line here if you got cracks in it or if your breather line falls off. Or you could get some leaking in of contamination if you're driving in a lot of water and you have either leaking seals or a leaking cover. Another reason you might want to change it is if your fluid is just well used and dirty. Should be able to go a good probably 50 or 100,000 miles. As long as you don't get it contaminated, it should stay nice and clean. It's also going to depend on how hard you're using your vehicle. And the final reason would be if your differential is leaking, you sort of have to change the fluid to repair the leak. This one is leaking and the fluid is a little bit dirty, not too bad. So that's why we're doing this. I think it's leaking out of the bunghole cover here, but I'm gonna pull it off anyway and see what's going on and change it out. Now around to the front, so I can mention your first step when changing your differential fluid is to make sure that the fill plug will come out. This one takes, I think it's a 3/8 ratchet. It's like square drive, like you just stick a ratchet on there. And when I did the front a few years ago, that plug would barely come out. I had to use a breaker bar and a jack on the breaker bar to turn it, and I thought for sure it was going to strip. And if that's the case, you're going to have to get some more parts, like a new cover and a new plug or something else, because you won't be able to refill it with the fluid. Okay, once you've identified that your fill plug will come out and this job is possible, you're going to pull off all these bolts except the top one. The top one you're just going to loosen about halfway. Now on mine, all of these were extremely tight except this one that was hand tight, and that's why you never take your vehicle to a shop, because they don't know what they're doing. Anyway, once all the bolts are out, you get yourself a catch pan or tub or whatever, and then I see a lot of people making mistakes and trying to remove this with a screwdriver or a pry bar, and there's no need for that. All you need to do is take a hammer and give it some side whacks. And she loosens right up. Now we'll let the fluid drain into the tub there. Okay, once you get the cover off and everything drained, your next step is to take your rotary buffing slash polishing. This is a whiz wheel, and you're going to clean up the cover all along your mating surface, and then you're going to clean up the differential all along the mating surface. And that is so that the new seal will seal good. And then you're going to take brake parts clean and clean out the cover, which I have a little bit more to do, and clean out in the diff. Just spray it out good. When you're cleaning around the mating surface, try to have the sparks / debris go away from the inside so that you have less contaminant in there. You can also jack up the vehicle and give everything a spin to make sure that everything spins really good and you're not missing any teeth on anything. That would be really bad if you were. Otherwise, once you have everything cleaned up, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we got everything cleaned up real nice. Real nice. Next step is putting on the sealer. I'm beginning to understand that you can buy gaskets for this, but that would be for suckers. We're going to use some red RTV stuff. This says high temp RTV silicone. And you're going to put it on there around. And the important thing is to make sure that you get a good amount on the inside of these bolt holes, because that's going to be the part that seals. Otherwise, if you went on the outside, it could leak out where the bolts are. So you have to go on the inside. You don't have to use a whole lot, just a nice little bead, and she'll seal up good. Okay, that was probably the most difficult part of this. You want to make sure you got a nice bead all the way around on the inside of the holes, and then it's time to hang up the cover. When you're hanging the cover, you want to go with the top bolt first, get it nice and centered, and put her on, and put the rest of the bolts in. Okay, I got the bolts on there and tightened up. You don't have to go crazy tightening these up. They're only, I think they're metric, but maybe around a 3/8 or something like that. As you can see, we got that RTV coming out, oozing out, even just the little bit we did put on there. When you tighten them down, it'll start to ooze out. That's fine. So now I'm going to let this dry for probably an hour or two, because I don't like to put the oil right in there on the wet RTV. I like to let it dry for a while. So probably come back to this in about an hour or two and finish it up. Okay, now to fill it up, you can either get a smaller bottle, and those sort of have a nose to them, and you can dump it in, or you could hose or siphon it in. Or I bought this little pump that goes onto the bottle. It's got a little hose and you just pump it. The pump takes a little bit longer, but it's a little bit cleaner and simpler kind of than trying to hose it in. But all you're going to do is fill it up until a little bit drips out of the the fill, and then you know you're full, and then you plug it back up and you should be good to go.